was at the Self-Publishing Live conference yesterday, the last 2 days, and I can't tell you how inspired I am by being there, really and truly. So let me start by telling you, I sat in that auditorium with 800 authors, and the speakers who were telling us all about their experiences were all authors who had self-published, independent authors who had been really successful at it. And I'm talking making $1 million, earning over £100,000, selling 6 million books, 2 million books, 1.5 million books. And I sat in that auditorium and I looked around and I thought to myself, this is professional. These are professional authors. I am surrounded by people who really take the business of writing and publishing their books to a whole new level. I thought that I took myself seriously as a writer, as an author, as a publisher, but they blew me out of the water. They really did blow me out of the water with everything that they were sharing. And what's really brilliant is that they've done it from nowhere. Like they haven't got traditional publishing deals. Some of them have gone on to get traditional publishing deals, but what's really fascinating about that is that they have sought traditional publishing deals on their own terms to serve their own purpose. And so, for example, one of them, Mark Dawson, he's got a traditional publishing deal to help him get his books into WH Smith's, which he's managed to do. But he approached the publisher and got a print-only deal so that he still has all the controlling rights and everything to for his ebooks. And that was, for me, that's a complete mind shift for a lot of authors. A lot of authors seek the holy grail of getting a traditional publishing deal. And one of the other things that was fascinating, there was a talk from the Alliance of Independent Authors who'd done a survey of independent authors. Now, there's been other surveys that have been done and published recently, and I didn't catch the name of of who had done the survey, but it suggested that the average earnings for authors, the median point, rather than the average, I suppose the median point for authors was around $6,000 to $8,000 a year and declining. And what the Independent Alliance of Authors decided that they wanted to do was to find out whether that's true of independent authors rather than traditionally published authors, because that was for traditional published authors. And what they found in their survey was that the mean earnings was $12,500-ish, and that some authors are earning 20 grand a year, some authors are earning more than 50 grand a year as independent publishers. And so and some of those authors were on the stage, and some of those authors 3 years ago were nowhere. One of the authors was at risk of losing her house. One of the authors said she'd published some books and they'd got nowhere. And now they're standing up on the stage because of how prolific they are and how well they've done with their book publishing. It was stunning and jaw-dropping and inspiring for every other one of us. So if I think about what are the things that I really learned from listening to them speaking, is that every single one of them takes their profession really seriously, like every aspect of it. They learn everything that they can about the publishing process, the advertising process, the marketing process. They research about the genre, they research their readers, they research the territories that they're publishing in. They learn how to make the most of all of the marketing opportunities. They look at all of the different publication options. It's not just Amazon. So they really embroil themselves in the whole industry. They learn everything. They publish highly professional books. There wasn't a single author who didn't advocate good quality editing, proofreading, developmental editing, line editing, proofreading. Like, not a one of them would publish a book without having gone through all that process. Their books have been professionally formatted. The covers have been professionally designed, and they've invested time and energy in understanding the whole business and then doing what they need to do, finding their process to make sure that their books do well. Now, one author, from a standing start, nothing. So the person I mentioned who had practically lost her house at the beginning of the pandemic, she was at risk of losing everything. She published her first book and made $2,500 in the first month. But before that, she'd done a whole load of work in educating herself about advertising, about marketing, about her potential audience. And she invested what she could in the marketing. Now, what she could invest was $2 a day. $2 a day. It was like, oh my God, if you can make that happen with $2 a day, like, that there's hope for us all, isn't there? But she really worked hard in terms of understanding everything before she started. What else can I say about them? They are grafters. Quite a few of these authors that were talking were full-time work, other jobs when they first started out as authors. And because of all of the work that they've done, they were able to give up their jobs in order to be able to focus on it full time. But before that, they were putting their time and energy in. Like, they didn't wait until they'd given up the jobs to do all of this work. They were getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and putting the work in. They were doing the work after their kids had gone to bed at night. Every spare minute that they've got, they were investing in doing everything that they needed to do to make a high quality book and to do all the advertising and marketing. And as a result of that, and a result of all their efforts, they made the sales, which meant that they could then give up their other jobs in order to focus on this. Every single person sees themselves not just as a writer, not just as a hobby writer. They are professional, astute business people. Like, they have investigated every aspect of the business of writing and publishing a book. And like, absolutely everything. They didn't know about any of it to start off with. So, for example, one of the speakers, Bella Andre, her name was, she's published all 56 of her books, 56 books, all 56 of her books in other languages. She researched the territory. She knew nothing about it. She researched the territories. She researched the translation process. She researched all the marketing to get into those countries. And she did spend a shitload of money in order to do that. Now, first off, what she told us was that she did the first translations and they didn't do very well. The reviews that she was getting was about the translations are not very good. And so people were focused on the poor quality translation rather than the quality of the book. So she took them down and she re-looked at it all again, invested really heavily in getting it right, got it right. And I can't remember what the time frame was now, but she's made over $1 million on selling books in other territories. So they're not just writers. Like, they don't see themselves as just writers. They investigate the whole thing, and some of them have got teams around them now because they've built themselves up to be able to, you know, they've grown so much that they need the teams around them, because they wouldn't just be able to do it all in one go. But to start off with, they did it all themselves, all of it. So yeah, so there's an absolute mindset around it being a business and looking at the business. There's also a mindset around not being afraid to make mistakes. You know, they've done things, they've put things out there, they've made mistakes. You know, they'll say some of their earlier books are not that well written, but you know, they like them being out there still, because people can see how far they've come, and you know, where they started and how far they've come. So there's that. And they're not automatons. Like, they have all the normal insecurities. You know, some of them are talking about not you know, being worried about what the, you know, how people would receive their books, and you know, all the other insecurities that we have, but they go and they do it anyway. Absolutely anyway. That's the way that I attend this conference, because I want to learn about how to help other authors to achieve that kind of success. What's really fabulous about things like that conference, the guy who organized the conference, Mark Dawson, he also has a whole suite of training courses available to people, where he's, not just him, but other people are sharing what they've learned, so that authors like me and like the people that I help can go and learn from what they've learned. So they're telling us, they're sharing everything that they've done, so that other people can do exactly the same. And I'm immersing myself in all of that, so that I can help people like you and people, you know, other authors, to be able to do what they're willing to do, with the understanding of, you know, what they'll get out of it all is commensurate with the amount of effort that they'll put into it. But hopefully I can guide them to a place where there'll be maybe even a little less effort, but you know, pointing them in the direction of the you know, the right things to be looking at, and where to go. It's really interesting for me to see the authors who have been really successful, the mindset that they bring to their work. It's kind of made me sit up, really made me sit up and think about, what am I doing for my books that, or what am I not doing for my books that they're doing for their books, that could make a huge lot of difference. As I went through the conference, I was just writing ideas down, constantly writing ideas down. So what I've done is I've put them all into Post-it notes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to map the Post-it notes so that I really know what to do first. Like, there's a whole load of stuff that I could be doing. This isn't, so that's one of the other things. This isn't a short-term thing. It's not something that you do overnight. Some of the authors that were talking at the conference only 3 years ago were not professional authors, and in that 3 years they've become highly successful authors, high earning authors. But it didn't happen overnight, but it did happen quickly, because they were willing to put the time and effort in. But what I've been able to do, from listening to all of them and to listen to all of the different things that it can do, is I have all of these ideas, but you can only do one thing at a time. So my plan is to make this into some coherent plan, so that I will do it one step at a time. And I think that's how everybody gets everything done. It's like determining what it is that's going to be done first, and do that, and then really have an idea of what's going to happen after that, and then do that, and then do that, and keep focused on it. I mean, that's how A Caged Mind came to be published, because I knew exactly what I needed to do, and every day I spent time on it. So same kind of thing really, but upping the ante in terms of advertising work and marketing work and getting the news out there about it. I've been pretty professional about the business side of writing and publishing a book. What listening to those speakers yesterday has done has like taken us this whole range of things that I could be doing, and it's closed the funnel a little bit for me, so I can see where to, well, once I've pulled all this together, I can see the pathway rather than all of the different paths. I can see the path and the route that I'm going to take with it. Yeah, one last thing I thought about all of those authors is every single one of them took themselves out of their own comfort zone. They didn't just sit in the comfort zone of writing the books. They really pushed the boundaries. And when I say that they took themselves out of the comfort zone, I think they threw themselves in at the deep end without a life jacket and learned to swim very quickly. Like, that's one of the things, is they've really immersed themselves in the learning, and they've learned fast, and they've put into place what they're doing, and it's way outside of their comfort zones. It's possible for anybody. It's possible for anybody. You talked about the people who just want to be hobby writers. Part of it is because they don't want to get out of their comfort zone. They're too scared to go out of their comfort zone. And, their books might do okay. They might be happy with what their books do within that comfort zone. But so much more is possible. The people who have made a lot of money and sold a lot of books have not just written 1, 2, 3 books. They are prolific. 56 books, 30 books, 4 books in a year. They're writing and publishing a lot of books. They write whole series of books. A lot of them were fiction, I have to say. So I think maybe the level of opportunity is slightly different for non-fiction writers. But the kind of books that I'm helping people write, those kind of spiritual memoir, kind of self-help inspirational books, are stories that people want to read. People want to read real life stories. So why wouldn't our books get out into the world as much as fictional storybooks? But it is definitely true that readers like series by the looks of it. They like to buy one book from an author. I don't know about you, but I'm the same. I buy one book from an author and I really like it, so I'll buy their other books. And that's where these authors have really, really got it taped. They write series. Some of them have written several series of books. So, yeah, why not? So a pearl of wisdom would be, for a new writer, somebody who's only just starting out, don't even think about what's ahead. Just get the book done. Just get the book written. You can't do any of that without having a book written. So get the book written, the first book written, and then maybe the second book. I mean, some of these authors write 3 or 4 books in a series before they publish the first one, so that they can, have rapid release marketing, publication. But get the book done and don't worry about it. But do not blinker yourself to what's possible in terms of how you're going to get this book out into the world. Don't just keep your eyes focused on a traditional publishing deal. Have an open mind to self-publishing, to indie publishing, because it looks like, from the survey information that's out there, the self-published indie authors who put the graft in earn way more than the traditionally published. From the top, there's a top echelon of authors. Okay, so not counting those. I think self-publishing is no longer the poor relation. Definitely.